What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a Run Your Mouth podcast. And that started a little bit too quickly. Usually, I press the go live button. It gives me a couple seconds to get into character, do my breathing exercise, make sure that I'm ready to go, make sure I'm ready to talk quickly, be enthusiastic. Anyways, we're still on the road. Quite an epic run of porches. This is my longest haul on the road, and I'm feeling pretty good. My leg's starting to heal up, and my stomach is still inside of me. I was nervous about that last time I did a stretch this long on the road. By the end of it, my stomach was nearly completely, on the outside of me. But thus far, I'm keeping it on the inside of me. Guys, I want to say I've been wrong about immigration this entire time. I have a new thought on the status of our country, the border wall, and letting Mexicans in. And this is a great thing to be saying into a echoey hotel. The amount of people that are standing in that hallway, but this is what you got to do on the road. You got to suck it up and just say, I'm going to say crazy shit. And people on this hotel floor are going to realize that they're sharing space with the bigots. So let's get into it. Um, Leave the borders open until every single town has readily available fresh eggs in the morning. What has happened in this country that there's hotel breakfast, powdered eggs? There's no excuse for powdered eggs. There's no excuse for sliced fake eggs. There's no excuse for like those little foamy, spongy, soapy, whatever. There isn't enough. Every single morning of your life, you should be able to wake up, go to a place and get some fresh sliced bread with some farm fresh eggs on it, all for under like $7. That should not be a complicated thing. You shouldn't be roaming, and we all like eggs. Every single fast food place is whipping together some fake egg salad. I mean, no one's having egg salad for breakfast. You're a serial killer. If you're going somewhere to get egg salad for breakfast, if you show up somewhere and you're like, firstly, egg salad is not even on the menu in most places. If you're showing up somewhere and trying to get egg salad, that means you're trying to make a special request to the people at like McDonald's or something. And then you should be the one that we just take over the border to go like, hey, go clean up the cartel. Maybe that could be some Rambo movie where the guy was trying to get egg salad for breakfast from fast food establishments in America. We just set loose in third world countries to take down their cartels. Tell me that wouldn't be a better version than what are the movies they keep making with all right, listen, we've gone too far down a tangent rabbit hole. I'm trying to talk about one of the problems facing our nation, which is the lack of quality eggs for breakfast in the morning. You go to New York City, and I promise you walk into a bagel shop, and there's a Mexican dude working so quickly, slinging sandwiches. We could feed this entire country with nutritious breakfast sandwiches for under $10 a day nationwide. And until that problem is solved, and by the way, I'm open. I'm open for discussion here. If Elon Musk wants to clone those specific Mexicans as opposed to letting new ones in, I'm okay with that too. But I say until we solve this quality egg shortage problem that we have as a nation, that I travel this country in various towns, and you don't need $15 omelets, and you don't need the fake eggs. You need a simple middle ground of the nice orange yolky pasture raised eggs. You need two of them on one slice of whole wheat bread to hold you till 1 p.m. This is simple, people. I'm not the only one that feels this way. Are you guys ready to just call this an episode and go march in the streets until we can protest for better access to eggs? All right. Anyways, back to Porch Store. I'm having a legendarily fun time. You know, it's funny. Usually when I'm home, I'm like, I prefer this lifestyle. If I could pick a lifestyle, it would be you basically you're off all day. And by off all day, I mean like you're like just kind of rattled. You're trying to read the news, but like you're just like whole body's humming. You're anxious. And then finally, I've been drinking Rain energy drinks. My friends, I remember once I tried Bangs and I was like in a sweet spot, but then the next day you were just down and it was a little bit like you had done cocaine. You're like, I don't know what was in that, but Rain is the right concoction of chemicals. It's not just the 300 milligrams of caffeine that's inside of a Rain energy, but they figured out the right concoction of chemicals with, by the way, the most disgusting flavors. Have you guys tried Rain energy drink? Are you guys on this? Because I've drinking one every single night before Porch Store for the last 2 weeks, because you show up to the spot and you're like, hey, it's time to rally. And you chug 300 milligrams of caffeine that every single one is clear and it's like sour gummy worm flavored. I wouldn't have thought I wanted that. If I don't even like soda, I don't even need the sweetness. Which, by the way, talk about the egg psyop. Can we just have not sweetened beverages? You can just hand me the clear beverage, put all the chemicals in it, make it so that it makes me go all the way up to the moon without tasting like an orange freeze pop. And whatever just happened to normal flavors, like a lemon lime. Like, why did everything have to get so bizarre? But I'm into it. I've been drinking a rain every night. That's what I'm gonna have to detox from 300 milligrams of caffeine at 10 p.m. You know what else I discovered? I've been doing joints wrong of my entire life, because last night someone handed me a joint that I think had resin in it, and I don't even that was I woke up high in the morning. That was a good time. Guys, we're all over the place. I'm a little too excited to do this podcast right now. I'm infused by the road and doing all these porches. Please, guys, come out. There's more porch tour coming left. This has been an epic run. It's and the comedy's been great, but it's more just about the backyard hangs. It's the people that are showing up to these things. It's the showing up to your homes, not knowing what bugs you're going to deal with, not even knowing if I told you the right town. That's part of the thrill of this. When was the last time you went on an adventure where you bought a ticket to Dallas only to find out it was 3 cities over, but then you get to watch a beautiful sunset? I've been shooting guns. Turns out, by the way, I'm not that bad. I thought I was a really bad shot because I didn't grow up shooting guns, and I wasn't that comfortable around it. But now that I've had a couple journeys with the guns, I'm not a bad shot, and I think it's time for me to actually man up and get myself and start practice, because when you're not good at something, you just don't want to do it. When you feel like you're not naturally good at something, you're just like, I don't need this one. But then once you're good, you're like, I could be really good at this. You know what I mean? You're like, let's get after it. All right, let's take a couple comments. But Yo Kratom vouching for the fact that I can shoot. That's true. When I was out in Myrtle Beach, along with Heather and the Yo Kratom dudes, we got after it and had a nice time. Guys, porchstore.com. I'll tell you what's going on next weekend. We've got Philadelphia, some weird spot in West Virginia I'm not familiar with. And then, like I said, I'll tell you Cleveland, but it's not Cleveland. It's at least an hour and 15 minutes from Cleveland. But come hang out. All right, let's take some other comments. Cole Warren. I witnessed Robbie with his rain 2 minutes before he introduced the first comic Thursday night. He ain't lying. I am not. Runaway Slav. We don't need a wall. America never signed onto the Ottawa Treaty banning the use of anti-personal landmines. Now I'm trying to get the people into the country. We're going the other way, Runaway Slav. Look, Roscoe gets it. Man gave me silver, gave me a physical piece of silver, and he's eating eggs. Rob for more eggs available in the morning. Can we make that the campaign promise of 2024? Listen, both people are old, bad, and crazy, but Rob will get the right Mexicans into this country so that you can have readily available eggs. All right, guys, before I move on into the news, and we do have important news topics to address, might be a quicker episode. I'm out in Austin. I want to get out there. I want to have some fun. I want to clear my head before I go. Ooh, I'm not pulling out a tooth. That's going to happen one day. I can't wait till I'm old enough that I'm live on a podcast. Like some of these people at their end of their careers. I remember some of the old timers when they used to just grumble on their radio shows. But I can't wait for the day that I've been podcasting, and usually I zin, but today I got the Zemos. They're much better. And I go to pull one of these out of my mouth, and I just literally pull out a molar, and then that's when they know that they have to. I hope. Listen, you can only hope for what's going to be your Joe Biden moment, where someone needs to tell you, okay, it's time. You did it. And I hope for me, it's that I was reaching into my mouth to take out a Zemo, and I just pull out my own molar. Anyways, guys, before we get into the show, because we do have some news topics to address, I realized while I was out on Porch Tour the last couple of days, there's some some of the hosts are up to some cool things. And why not share the love? These people have invited us into their backyards. They've let us throw parties in their backyards. And some of these people are up to some really cool things. So everybody, right now, I want you to go give these people a follow. They are all up to cool stuff. They are worth following. And if you guys run the recent Porch Tour dates and I missed you, let me know if you got something that you'd love for me to shout out on the Run Your Mouth podcast. And additionally, if you're on a previous one, I'm sorry that I didn't do this in previous years. This was a blunder on my end. And when I re-hit you, I promise you, we will plug what you have going on the podcast. So first is Minnesota was one of the best porch tours we have ever done. Shout out to TJ Hawthorne. You guys can follow his Twitter handle, which is at TJ_Hawthorne 44B. He should improve that. That's a bit of a name for trying to give people like a clear directive. And I'm not going back to refine all these links to put them into the episode description. But if you're watching the show, it's right in front of you. And he's actually running for Libertarian for Minnesota House District 44B. Next up, we've got Heather Allen. She gave us some good pointing shooters. If you guys are looking for guns, you're into guns, you want to connect someone who can train you how to shoot your gun, you want to read a book about someone who shot guns in every single state, author of 50 Shades in My Sight, go follow Heather Allen, high caliber _NC. And then lastly, if you're out in the Austin area and you're looking for a shaman, you need potions and lotions. You need the ancient arts of turning flowers into, I don't really know the way the whole thing works, but she's a cool person. Rachel White, you can follow her, Totem RACH. And I did her podcast the other day, the Skeptical Shaman podcast. You guys can go give that a listen. I had a great time doing the show. Sometimes I'm reluctant. I feel like sometimes when I do other people's podcasts, I come off like a little bit of a serial killer where you start talking about like the way you live. And it's like, dude, I drink every night. I'm eating cookies every night. I'm waking up every morning complaining about my stomach as if it was someone else's fault that I ate Buc-ee's last night at 2 a.m. Like, of course your stomach's going to bother you. You're 36 years old. You think just because you have a nice jawline, you're going to get away with sandwiches from Buc-ee's at 3 a.m? It doesn't work that way. You're going to pay the price for that. And then I walk around like, no, what happened to my stomach? Stomach. Yeah, because you drank and then you ate Buc-ee's at 3 a.m. Of course you have stomach problems. But then I go on other people's show and I just turn into a David Goggins where I'm like, you gotta wake up, you gotta shave your head every morning, you gotta look in the mirror, you gotta shave. It doesn't matter if it's been shaved, you gotta shave it again. You gotta have that discipline. You gotta make sure you don't have too many strands of hair on your head because you got too many strands of heads in your hair and things are sloppy. You started your day sloppy. You gotta wake up. You gotta be up at 8 a.m. You gotta start reading that newspaper. You gotta show up to people's porch. Doesn't matter how many porches you've done. You gotta do more porches after that. So anyways, it was a great episode. We talked about some of the Eastern philosophy stuff that I've read. I might have come off like a little bit of a self-help Instagram asshole about how people should live their lives, which I have no reason to give people any advice whatsoever, except, I'm living just whatever the fuck you want to do. Just get out there and do it and, play some porches. And all right, those are the Porch Core plugs. Let's get into the episode. Biden is trying to come up with some new ideas for how he can stay in the race. People are getting all nervous about Joe Biden. They're saying it's time to retire. It's time to call it a day. You're mumbling, you're fumbling, you're stuttering more than ever. It's apparent to the entire world that you've got dementia. Even the people on CNN are calling you out for it. And so he's trying to figure out how he can reinvigorate the campaign. He's trying to figure out how can he let people know that he's still up to the task. And so his first plan is Biden tells governors he needs more sleep and less work at night. And you know what? If you give me eggs and more Mexicans coming over the border who will specifically make breakfast eggs at a higher quality, and you institute like a national directive for nap time, let's go. Listen, we don't like Biden, and Trump's got his problems as well. And obviously, we don't want to go back to full COVID. If we could do 2 weeks of COVID a year where we all get to take off, go back to our parents' house, drink alcohol with our dad, and eat cake that our mom makes out of the fridge, COVID was fun for 2 weeks. If we could have a national COVID thing where we could all pretend to be afraid of something and we could all take off from life for 2 weeks and stay in the homes, get a little bit fatter, and just do nothing, catch up on everything that's on Netflix, I feel like a 2-week COVID cleanse. Like the initial pitch of slowing a curve and staying home, it was fun for 2 weeks to think you were going to die and you had to stay home. And then it was time to grow up and some people realized that they really like just staying home and pretending like there were issues. And, they pushed it too far. That was the problem. There's a balance to everything. Pretending like we're all going to die and staying home was fun for 2 weeks. It was good for a 2-week LARP. And on the same note, if in order to normalize the fact that he needs to nap, he wants to institute like a nationwide, like maybe we could do that thing in kindergarten in the middle of your workday. They show up with the blue mats. Everyone's got to lay down and you're 5 years old. So you're just mad at it that there's some fat person who somehow got the job as the camp counselor or kindergarten teacher. And he wants to take a nap. So you all have to take a nap. Do you guys remember this? Remember this preschool? Or was I just molested and I'm first figuring this out? Did you guys have forced nap time as a kid where they would throw down the blue mats and try and make you take a nap in the middle of the day? I seem to remember that from my childhood. And if Biden, in his attempt to pretend like he's not too old, is going to like reinstitute a nationwide napping at 3 p.m. policy, I could get into that. All right, so let's take a look at some of Biden's other strategies to try and, stay in the race and pretend like he's up to the task. And you guys can let me know if we have sound on this, but let's give it a play.
Ultimately, the American presidency is about character. The character of the president who holds the job. Because with the immunities the Supreme Court just talked about, it gets down to that. It's about honesty. It's about the president's decency, integrity. Do they respect people? Or do they incite violence and hate? Can they honor their oath to the Constitution and uphold their oath of office? Well, I don't think it's an exaggeration.
This is his new thing, to try and yell himself awake in his own speeches. When he's falling asleep, I guess they zap him through his shoes and they go, just yell yourself back awake. This is the way that you don't fall asleep live on TV, is that you yell so loud. You're like, oh shit, I was talking.
Yes, Trump has failed on every one of these character tests, everyone. And what's worse, the Supreme Court has just ruled that there are virtually no limits on the power of the president.
All right, and we've got other things. So, sometimes when you're falling apart, you got the dementia coming, you're reaching into your mouth trying to pull out your Zemos and you pull off your own molars. Usually, your better family members would let you know, hey, I think it's time to call it a day. We've plundered enough money through Hunter, through China, through all of these things that we've done. We can go relax and spend time in other people's homes. That's the best part. Like, for some reason, the richer you are, sometimes the cheaper people, because it's not true with all rich people, but like the richer you are, the more free shit you seem to get. And somehow these people, they're all vacationing in other people's homes. Like, isn't the nice part about being so wealthy? You don't have to deal with other people, so you can spend your own money. Or maybe it's because you're so rich and people are afraid of you and want to give you shit. You feel more comfortable. Just like, all right. Anyways, let's listen to his loved ones on whether or not Joe Biden's going to be stepping down.
Joe has made it clear that he's all in. That's the decision that he's made. And just as he has always supported my career, I am all in too.
So they're staying in the race. And can someone remind them that the Supreme Court just said that they're not going to be prosecuted? Like, for whatever they did, they're off the hook. You could just go enjoy retirement. You got maybe like 2 months left. Why not enjoy the last couple months of your life? Why you gotta spend it falling downstairs, blundering over lines, and having your family members continue to send you out there? All right, and now there's something odd about once things are in the ether. Like, I think there was that thing that once there was that one guy who broke like the 5-minute mile. Like, suddenly we broke the algorithm on life, and it was normal for people to run at that speed, and people knew that it could be done, so they just kept doing it. Well, there's something about the fact that now it's like just out there that Biden mumbles and fumbles, and he seems to be doing it at a higher rate than ever. It's like now this is the role that he's supposed to play, so he's going to play it. And it's like not even on him. It's like the universe has decided, like, all right, you're now the bumbly guy. You're the person who's going to get on. It's like as if there was God wrote the sitcom of life, and now he's the drunk idiot uncle that says stupid things. And so now in the sitcom that we're all living, Joe Biden will say dumb shit. And so we're going to see Joe Biden saying dumb shit at a higher rate. And as he continues to try and pretend like he's fine, and he throws his big boy press conferences to prove that he's fine, you're going to see him say increasingly dumber shit at a higher rate. And so here were some of his most recent blunders.
Guided this alliance through one of the most consequential periods in its history. I realize, I was talking to your wife, I personally asked you to extend your service. Forgive me. And you put your guided this alliance through one.
Well, that's a way to prove that you're wrong. You're young, is to be live on television being like, hey, I slept with your wife. Yeah, it was recently too. I know we're live on TV, but just I did get one in with your wife. I mean, I'm still the president, so you just gotta like sit there and let me laugh about it. But yeah, that everyone just thinks I just shower with my daughter, but I slept with that guy's wife. All right, and then here, last recent blunder from Joe Biden, and this might have been the most epic. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, guys, George Clooney's out. George Clooney's out. Guys, listen, we weren't sure at what point in time it would actually be over for Joe Biden, but when a handsome man who pretends to believe other things people write, that's what being an actor is. Other people write things for you. You're a good salesperson. You're able to read dialogue in a convincing way. Isn't it weird the culture we live in that everyone, it's like, oh my God, the handsome George Clooney, even George Clooney, or is all of like the hullabaloo that we hear about the elites and the relationship with Hollywood? Is George Clooney actually at the pinnacle of this thing? Is it like when we think of the deep state and who's really making decisions, is it that you climb through the Hollywood ranks and you're handsome for so long, someone just walks around and goes, you know what? You're still so handsome. Why don't we just, why, you know what? You can just make decisions for everybody now. I know that you never did anything other than make a shit ton of money off of tequilas and movies that other people wrote, and every movie that he directed sucked. Is there a single movie that George Clooney's directed that's been good? Name one. I'm throwing it out there. You guys are in the chat. You guys watch movies. Anybody? Anybody got a George Clooney directed movie that was actually good? Or is he just a handsome man that if you hand him dialogue, he can say it in a convincing fashion? And then us as a culture, we're so bought into that. Oh my God, George Clooney. Even George Clooney's turning against Joe Biden. All right. And now here was the most recent blunder, which was only one of two. But here we go.
I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Hey, guys, I'm still in it. Putin's the worst person in the entire world. And shit, I just accidentally the guy that I'm saying we got to give all the money to so that we can continue to escalate World War III, because I got us into this mess and then couldn't admit defeat when right at the bat of this thing, China and India didn't get our back and continued to buy oil from Russia. And now we continue to put sanctions on people and steal their currency. But that's not going to affect the fact that people need the US dollar. And guys, I'm not too old for run for president, but I couldn't even remember that this is not the guy that I keep telling you is our mortal enemy. Let's continue.
President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway,
I've been traveling too much. It's cut my nap time short this afternoon. The nap time I was supposed to take, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't restful enough. All right, there we go. We're watching Joe Biden fall apart within our very eyes. I throw it out to you guys. Over under on a month for Joe Biden. Over under on 2 weeks for Joe Biden. How much longer can they roll this guy out there? And how bad does this make the deep state look? We've been looking at Joe Biden's ears. We've been, suggesting that maybe there are multiple Bidens. I like the Timeline Earth guys. They were early on that one. And you're telling me that the CIA, what happened to the drugs that you guys were giving him at one point that he was able to stay awake? Or it must be that they're throwing him under the bus. They've got to have better tricks to be able to keep this guy awake and present him better. There's no way that the propaganda machine has gotten this bad. I mean, the last time you kept him in a basement and pretended like we were all going to die for a virus. Have you guys just given up? Have you just given up on selling us things? You think about what they did the last time to pretend like he was an okay human being. And then how much they've done over the last couple of years so that we wouldn't have to see all these moments from him. And now all of a sudden you turn on the news every single day. It's a new mumble. And this is the great Joe Biden recall of 2024. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, everybody, for Kamala Harris. Fingers crossed. Tell me, come on. I mean, are we going to get anyone funnier than Kamala Harris? Is there anyone that's a bigger disaster than Kamala Harris? What could possibly be more entertaining than a final home stretch election season with Kamala Harris? It's not going to happen. All right, let's take a moment and plug our sponsor, YoKratom.com, home of the $6 kilo, only place in the entire world you can get a entire kilo of Kratom for just $60. All right, now what else do we got? I don't even have that much more episode left to cover. Oh yeah, I did skip this slide and I wanted to mention it. Donors to pro-Biden super PAC are said to withhold roughly $90 million. Who? Why do I get half? Is this the George Clooney contingency? the George Clooney, Tom Hanks contingency of the Democratic Party? Like, who are the real deep state people who are running the show here? Where's the journalism on that? Like, how many other donors are pulling out? What does the $90 million actually do for you? Where does all this campaign finance money go once you pull out of the election? Like, if Joe Biden were to disappear and Kamala Harris wouldn't end up running, what happens to all the money that only they are allowed to spend? Does it go back to the Democratic Party? Do they then just get to spend it on vacations? What happens to if you actually donate to a campaign and the money isn't spent on some advertisement for, old people to try and fear them into voting for you? What do they get? Is it like when you do tax deductions for your business? Hey, as long as I can pretend like I was doing something campaign related, I'm allowed to go spend this on fancy lobsters. And so, okay, I guess people pledge $90 million. Now they're like, you can't have this, but if someone else runs, then they can have it. Who are these people? And then if this actually does influence Joe Biden to step out, can we have a conversation about to what extent donors like this actually truly control our political process? Like, isn't this a little bit weird for the New York Times to write, hey, it's time for Joe Biden to step down because the donor base are saying that they're going to pull wait, the donors have that much control over the election process? I thought this was supposed to be a democracy. I thought this was supposed to be that us, the voters, were so interested in single individuals that they were going to run for. Oh, you're telling me that it's more just the marketing push? Well, then who are those people that are actually making the decisions? Isn't it like a weird half story to publish of, oh, this is how bad the Joe Biden situation has gotten. He needs to step down. He can't win. And part of the reason that he can't win is because the people that have been selling him are going to withdraw the support. And so they won't have the propaganda money that they need to actually sell the guy. Well, then who are the people and how much influence do those people actually have if the reason why Joe Biden were to step down is not because all of his loved ones go, hey, you got dementia, you can't win, but it's because the donors are withdrawing money. All right, now let's talk about Project 2025. Doesn't the number just make it sound so you just throw a couple numbers on something. It's the agenda of the X532. You know, you know what it is? It's like the Star Wars thing where enact order. I can't remember what it is. Someone call up Scott Horton. One of you nerds in the chat know what the order is. One of you guys, come on, don't be shy right now. One of you losers watching the live chat know exactly what I'm talking about. What's the Star Wars order that the Emperor finally says, and then all the stormtroopers start turning around and killing the Wookiees? Order 66. There you go. Luca Doe coming through, either quick on the Google or has watched too much Star Wars in his life, which, by the way, can we all agree that everything post since it was sold to Disney doesn't count? Like, it's not like we need George Lucas to rebuy Star Wars. All right, let's just recap the important things that need to happen in this country. We need more Mexicans coming into the country illegally until we fix the egg shortage. We need an institutionalized either nap time or 2 weeks of pretend COVID to slow the curve on an annual basis. And we need the government to buy back Star Wars from Disney's and hand it to George Lucas, which granted the first three, the latter three movies were not as good as the original three, but compared to what Disney has done with it, I'll go back to Jar Jar Binks. You can do the George Lucas Jar Jar Binks series, and that would be better than what Disney has done with Star. Except, as I'm saying that, the side storylines were good. The ones that they were doing with the Mandalorian, that's been a good series. But it's everything like actual like real Star Wars with the Jedis and all the stuff that was great. That's all done. Anyways, Project 2025, Trump's feigned ignorance. Guys, I haven't dug into Project 2025. It's from the Heritage think tank. My guess is it's nothing. My guess is it's not that tied into Donald Trump, and my guess is it's not some sort of a secret agenda to reinstate. Project 2025 is the initiative to take the individuals who were down in Charlottesville to retake over the internet and to group them into the CIA and to get America out of the foreign wars, because otherwise Putin's going to be taking over all of Europe. And it's to I mean, the fact that there's so many think tanks that exist in Washington, and sure, they influence policy, but the idea that the Heritage Foundation has published, like, why are we more concerned with Project 2025 than the World Economic Forum? Why is it when the World Economic Forum was talking about great resets or otherwise, at the same time that we got a global pandemic, we're going to be more concerned with the Heritage Foundation and some Project 2020? Okay, so you got the word project and you've got 2025. Oh, spooky. A paper from a think tank in Washington. These people never publish papers. Oh, you got people sitting around and writing papers in Washington? That's never happened before. There's never been a think tank that might or might not be adjacent to a political campaign that said things that will probably never actually get anywhere. Whoa. And it's one of those things where it's like a 400-page document, and we're all curious because you made it sound so ominous. Play the creepy music. Project 2025, not the year of the election and the word project. Anybody know what Project 2025 is about? I've been out on the road drinking rains late at night, drinking beers, smoking joints that people hand me. I'm not like it. Just listen, everything about it just sounds like nonsense. I don't imagine that the Heritage Foundation has wrote anything. Like, listen, it could even be deep state kookery of let's police the internet more. I'm just telling you, it's think tank bullshit. Go read Foreign Affairs. You think what traditionally comes out of the Foreign Affairs from the Council of Foreign Relations is things that you and I or most people would actually agree with? I'm sure 95% of what comes out of think tanks in Washington to try and institute policy is nothing that any of us like or agree with. But the idea that, oh my God, one document was published by this one organization and nobody's clear about, I haven't seen anything that gives clarity about what is so disconcerting about Project 2025 or anything that directly proves that Donald Trump is looking to institute this Project 2025. So when you just have ominous name, think tank, and clear, like it just sounds like nonsense. All right, we've got more show for you. But before we do, sheathunderwear.com. Everybody, sheath.com, promo code RYM. You get 25% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. If you're coming out for porch tour, sometimes I'm going to be honest, you got to battle the elements. And if you're wearing high shorts, you want the sheaths. You want to make sure that everything's locked in, secured, sweaty free. Sheathunderwear.com, promo code RYM, 25% off or 20% off. I should know that. The greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. All right, so while all of this is going on, Donald Trump's court cases have thus far gone rather well. There was the immunity case last week from the Supreme Court that we discussed. And so first is now Donald Trump is asking a judge to toss out his hush money conviction yesterday. And you know what I thought was kind of ironic about this was part of that charge was that it was campaign finance related. And I would have thought that it predated him being in office, but I guess maybe some of the comments or otherwise are things that I would have thought it was all pre-office stuff. But I guess if it's part of the outer scope of his presidency and that it was a part of his campaigning, maybe he should be off the hook for it. I don't know how that's going to play out. On that note, I do have a question for you guys, the listeners of the Run Your Mouth podcast, and you can email me at robsnewsroom@gmail.com. This was from The Hill. Hold off death squads, highly misleading coverage of SCOTUS immunity decision. I was talking last week about the presidential immunity. I was saying conceptually, I don't understand why we need to legalize illegal behavior. I was also saying I understand why the Supreme Court ruled in the way it did, but I feel like there's better ways that we could work on this, such as having a similar system to the way you need a judge for a warrant. A president should have quick access to high legal authority to give him judgments about whether or not something is or isn't illegal. I think the fact that the government is able to use intimidation tactics and always be able to, it wasn't me. I never said that. I never said that. I never did this. It was other people. I mean, talk about walking away from COVID and then the fact, even the Supreme Court, when it came to intimidating social media companies to basically censor our free speech, well, there's no standing because there were too many individuals in government that like the whole thing, to me, the Supreme Court's given a little bit too much power over to the government. And I was listening to quite a bit of Glenn Greenwald, who does excellent coverage on these style cases. I'm not a regular listener of his podcast, but someone had said that he had good coverage on this stuff, and he really does a very in-depth analysis. And there was something that I walked away from confused, because I had said that one of the points being made was that a president could say, hey, I think that this person is a danger to society, and I guess use the SEAL team on them. And then you could say that that would be in the outer perimeter of his official duty. Now, you might have to get more technical of what specific official duty it was. And I'm going to use the word duty a lot here. So don't be immature. Don't be sitting at home laughing and spacing out and thinking, oh man, Rob's just talking about turds again. I'm trying to have serious legal analysis. And so you gotta shelve your potty mind so that you can follow the rigorous analysis of the Run Your Mouth podcast and not just the thinking about turds when I use the word duty. And I'm even going to convert the T just so that you have to exercise your thought discipline to stick with our rigorous legal analysis. All right. So anyways, I was saying that it was written, I think, by the dumb lady one that's on the court who's ultra liberal. She was saying the SEAL team point. And then I saw other people coming around and going, that's not what the Supreme Court said, because the Supreme Court ruled that you're only in the clear and immune for things that are within the outer scope of your official position, but things that are deemed personal, you would still be responsible for. So I don't understand why killing people and saying that they were a danger, or I might have to think about this a little more to figure out what would be considered. Like, for example, the reason why he'd be off the hook for January 6th is that overseeing legal elections is part of his official duty. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Anyways, so that was a pretty loose one. So I don't know what laws on the books of the, that the president has to keep us safe, that you could say killing someone that he wants to declare makes us not safe is in the outer duty. But there's got to be a way to spin it. And so when I saw Glenn Greenwald said the same thing, I'm seeing this in the Hill being like, that is totally outside of what the Supreme Court was saying, because they were specifically saying that you wouldn't be immune for things that are totally unrelated to the job. I don't understand why that can't. I don't understand why they didn't legalize that. Now, I think it's outrageous. I don't think we're going to see a president that takes the presidential immunity that far. I think if someone did take it that far, the Supreme Court would probably come around with a new ruling, or you'd even have the Senate, making amendments to the Constitution or otherwise. I don't think our country's going there quite yet, and I don't think that's something that we're going to see. But I don't understand why that's far-fetched to say that if you're taking the Supreme Court's logic to the extreme, they did technically, I guess, legalize that. I don't understand why that would fall into the category of personal, or why people would say it's outrageous to say that the logic of the Supreme Court's ruling would include that. But smart people were saying the otherwise. So maybe I had it wrong. President can be impeached. I remember this from the Donald Trump and from the Donald Trump court cases, that there was talk that he needs to be impeached first for the action, and then once he's impeached for it, he could be tried for it. So I remember that going back now 6 months to when there was articles about the presidential immunity. However, in regards to the Supreme Court case ruling, I haven't seen anyone talking about that. So I think what you're trying to say is that if a president were to go ahead and do something that drastic, he would be impeached for it. And if he's impeached, he could then be prosecuted. I remember that from 6 months ago. In conjunction with this Supreme Court ruling, though, I don't remember anyone talking about, hey, we've got this other mechanism by which presidents can be tried for things, because if they're impeached for that action first, they can then be tried for it. Now, maybe I have to actually read the entire Supreme Court decision cover to cover, but I didn't hear Glenn Greenwald mention that specific thing. I didn't read that in that Hill article, and I didn't specifically see that in the Supreme Court ruling. If someone's got more details on that, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. All right, we only got a couple more topics left. This I thought was fascinating. It was from a Zero Hedge article, and they were talking about, I'm sorry, I forgot you guys will have to, if you're interested, you can Google this paragraph. I forgot the name of the article or the author. But you know what? Let me read this one paragraph and then I will tell you guys the thought that I had. But something happened during this process that I believe the globalists did not intend. The pandemic agenda failed. The vaccine passports failed. The mandates failed. The average infection fatality rate was a tiny 0.23%, and the public was not sufficiently terrified. Too many patriots were refusing to comply. The CDC numbers on vaccinations were clearly inflated to make it look like more people were taking the jab. Almost no one took the boosters. It was perhaps one of the biggest blunders the globalist has ever faced. The WF's Klaus Schwab, Dr. Evil himself, has faded into the background and retired as executive chairman. The big play for medical tyranny bombed. Now what to do? I was reading this and I was like, I never really looked at it and thought we won. Like the whole time you looked and you're like, man, people are sheep. And we got really, really close to medical passports and being linked to our information at all time and having government, really, really impose on our lives. And they did it for 2 full years. And we saw how sheepish people were. And people that were on the sideline, such as myself, were like, hey, guys, this is like round 1, and look how bad this could get. Look at what they're trying to do. Look at what could be happening with the health passports. Do you guys remember years ago when we had Andrew? Andrew was on the show, and he was telling us about the idea of health passports being on your phone and a government app that's collecting your information about where you are at all times and making sure that you have to actually report into places with your health app and what that could mean for our freedom and the ability to take random individuals and just lock them in their homes. And you could just be like, well, that guy, he's not complying. And they did it to us for 2 years. But I guess in terms of going to like that next level that we were saying, hey, here's how bad this could get, they didn't get it there. And it's hard to look back at the COVID era and go, hey, did we beat those guys? Were they trying for something much worse? And loudmouths like me, despite all the censorship, were able to rally the support so it didn't happen? I've never once looked back at the COVID time and go, oh, did we actually win that round? Like they won a lot of the fight, but we actually won the war on that? And then I was reading this one and I was like, it did seem like they were going for this more nefarious lifestyle where they could use health reasons to kind of keep us on lockdown, keep us in our, we were almost looking at it like maybe it was just the battle to get Trump out, or maybe it was, these things collided and the vaccine companies made a killing. They would have liked to have made more money, but they couldn't go that far with it. Or, hey, they're going to figure out how to have dystopian control over us. And this was kind of an early test around and they were able to run an experiment and see how sheepish people were like that. You know what I mean? If I always looked at it more like we lost a battle for freedom because we saw how sheepish people could be. But I never looked at it like maybe we lost a bunch of the battles, but we actually, at least for this round, won the war. I just kind of never saw it. And I kind of felt that way. We talked about it on the show where it's like, hey, that could have been a lot worse. But I didn't really think about it in this terms of like, oh yeah, it does seem like, the same way I've said it before, the government, the way they do this is they'd like to impose on us as much as they can, but they have to see if they can sell the narratives. It's what happened with that lady who was going to be the censor of the internet. And then it leaked online of her singing about, with the spoonful of government propaganda will help you have to live in your house. That wasn't the actual lines, but you guys remember that crazy lady. And then the whole internet saw the crazy. They're like, why would this psycho bitch have any say in my life whatsoever? Oh, we would never have that lady controlling the internet. We would never do that. What are you talking about? That lady controlling your thoughts on the internet? But if we had all been like, hey, we love that lady and that's a great idea because we don't feel safe, and they would have done it. And if they could have sold the domestic terrorism title after January 6th, that people like me could be living in prisons and never having opinions online, maybe not me, maybe more people like at the Dave level. And then they round up Dave and I just go, I tell dick jokes. What are you talking about? I'm just playing people's porches. I don't need to do a podcast. Have the CIA buy more tickets to Porch Tour, and I'll just play for 40 people's on lawns, drink every night, have a rain to rally, and I can live in that cycle my whole life. You think I need to talk about freedom on the internet? I mean, I understand Dave, he's got a big following, but me, I'm 40 people on a front lawn. What do you need me in a jail for? I'll be quiet about your next round of vaccines. Just have 40 people from the CIA buy tickets to a front porch, have one of them be a hot chick. It doesn't even need to sleep with me. She can just pretend like she's interested enough that I want to show up to the next porch. I'm a simple man. I mean, sure, the Dave Smiths of the world, they're actually making an impact, but me, 40 people. What's 40 people to the CIA to show up and buy a $20 ticket and laugh at some? They don't even have to like the jokes. They could just pretend to laugh, and then I could think that I'm doing amazing in life until I show up to the next porch. You don't have to put me in jail. 40 people showing up to a porch, it's probably cheaper. Okay. Anyways, what was I trying to say? Something about that we actually I was trying to say that they would have gone for it. Yeah, that's what they do. They try and test the things, and if they can get away with it, they'll go for it. But sometimes we're like, that seems off. You guys, no, that's clearly not freedom. They would go for essentially back digital currency unless we can educate enough of the public about the fact that that means government has a say in how much meat you can eat, how much electricity you're going to consume, how much sugar you can consume, where you can go, how you can spend your money, making sure that if you can't afford the best accountant to make a claim for why you don't have to pay taxes, they're just going to keep your taxes. Certain individuals can just automatically get their money from the government. There'll be a negative interest rate to make sure that no one can ever save their money. We all know what that looks like. And as long as we can educate people to it, it won't happen. But if they can sell it, they will. They would like to have that much control at all times. So I've always looked at it more like this was, if anything, a showcase in how sheepish people can be if you just scare the bejesus out of them. And luckily, we won this battle, but there's going to be more of these fights down the line. But I never really looked at it like, no, there were a bunch of little battles there. But when it came to specifically, I guess, the medical tyranny of a health passport on your phone and, fully regimented, mandated vaccines or otherwise, that we actually won the war. All right. 2 more slides. And speaking of which, the U.S. is at risk for dengue fever. I don't know what that is. Stay home. And if you dodged mRNAs this entire time, the U.S. government awards Moderna a $176 million bird flu vaccine contract, where, the people in the NIH, I guess they have the patents on something. So now they'll pay Moderna with the government money so that they could go make it. And then they can use that money and then force us to all go take something or put it into all the food. And then they can make their money and not have to report to us who actually had those pay. It's a nice circular system. If you can figure out a way to get in on this racket, it might be even better than my higher carbon reducing trees. All right, that's the episode. I will take some comments, but before we do, why not one more plug for porchstore.com. A lot of porches coming up. Philadelphia this weekend, somewhere West Virginia, somewhere outside of Cleveland. And then I'm out to the West Coast. We got a couple places out in California. Brian McWilliams on a bunch of those shows. Porch Store's been a blast. Bring your Rain energy drinks. Bring your sheath underwear. Show us all your full sheath bulge package. And let's have a good time out there on the porches. All right, Junior. I think more people are suspicious of government and the pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, I agree with you. I think they'll have a harder time selling these kind of things the next time around. Curator of Cool. That's a cool name. Just putting up the sheep signs, just letting us know that there are some sheeps out there. But easy. Is the final slide about Alec Baldwin? Nah, he's off the hook. Whatever. I mean, did you actually think they were going to throw Alec? He's part of the elites. He's part of that George Clooney club. They can kill people. Runaway _Slav. Robbie, we understand why you don't mention monkeypox. Or battle with it has been a tough one. Every month is Pride Month. Facts. We're not going to have a better way to close out the show than that. Thanks for hanging with us. Until next time, I bid you to keep running your mouth. Get out there, yell at some people, see you on the porch, come out.